Welcome to pop.0 with Brian Chaffin and John Keith.
Today is Thursday. No, what is it? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. This is a live stream at the moment, unless you're listening later, of a podcast, a video podcast for the Mac Observer. And I'm Brian Chaffin, editor-in-chief for TMO.
And hi, Brian. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. And I'm John Keith. Just happy to be here. And hey, you guys, I was thinking like this must be the busiest time of the year for you and the team at the Mac Observer. How'd it go? Did you guys have a good show for the show? Yeah, we did. We got a lot of content out. We did a live hangout. It was the second time we've done it, but this time we managed to get it out enough in advance that we actually had a lot of people hanging out and chiming in, and yeah, it was a good show. I thought it was a great. No, I was not invited. I was not invited to participate. I assume it's because you guys were frightened of what I might say. Although
it's because you haven't joined our Slack group. All you have to do, you just have to join in our Slack group.
Yeah, I didn't have to join that to be on the Hangouts part. It's not requisite. You just were frightened of what I might say.
We actually do the group chat. Hey, listen. We start the Google Hangout through Slack.
Yeah, but you could send an invite, I think.
Yeah, or you could join the Slack group.
Yeah,
that's where we were doing it all. You could. We want you there, buddy.
And that's a big problem.
We curse in that room all the time. It's only on our podcast, except for this podcast where we don't cuss.
Well, anyway, we could take that off for some additional discussion, I guess. Anyway, what did you think of the show? The show that announced what Apple announced. They announced new watch, 2 new phones, or 3 new phones, depends how you count it. The Apple TV, and I guess that's it, right? Is there anything else to the show? I guess that was it.
The pad for the wireless charging pad, and the AirPod 1.5 case.
Yeah, the only genuine surprise of the show was I'm going to give them 1.5 surprises. That the case was wirelessly chargeable. Nobody knew that before the show, even though they had a photo of the new case. And although we knew that there was going to be an emoji, I don't know that we knew that there was going to be talking poo. And talking poo was awesome. You could literally be shit in your text.
I expect you to show up in texts with me as talking poop a lot.
So I wonder if you think like will any of this catch on? Because like I remember when the new iMessage came out, we all went sticker crazy for like a couple of days or so, and then I never used the feature again. Right?
I use stickers. I use stickers all the time. I use the ability to pop stickers on top of other messages and stuff. I use that stuff all the time. All the time. Really? I know a lot of people who do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't do it in our groups. Probably the only new features I use are kind of like the thumb something up to thumb something down kind of other people, but I don't use the sticker stuff.
I use the effects sometimes too, and people use the effects with me.
That's true. I use the effects.
Really, it depends.
Birthdays.
Listen, that iMessage stuff. If you don't do things like that, it doesn't mean anything to you, and that's the groovy thing. Is like that's okay. I'm not talking to you, John. I'm actually talking to anyone who's listening to this. There are a lot of people who don't use this stuff, but don't therefore dismiss it for everybody else. This stuff is making iMessage into a must-have communications platform for a lot of people around the world.
Yeah, I use it. It's a must-have for me, despite not really using the stuff. I was just curious if you kept up on it. Like, by the way, the GIF search on a tool that came with the new iMessage is terrible because they've now, I guess, censored it because you might see something naughty when you search on it to the point where it's useless and it doesn't do it. So you still to find the appropriate GIF and paste it in anyway. So it's become meaningless. Either do the feature and let people be shocked, or don't do the feature at all because it's otherwise just jank. which is
or give a selectable filter.
Yeah,
so
yeah, just like
people,
you have to be an adult to use this filter or something like that. Yeah, that would be good.
Like the clean filter, or do it the other way around, default to clean, and then allow a naughty filter.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just make it user selectable.
Agreed. Okay, so I guess let's talk a little bit about the new stuff. What did you think of? I guess I don't know what caught your fancy at the show. I'll give, and I'm curious what your overall impression of the show was.
The two things that caught my fancy the most would be iPhone 10 and Apple Watch 3.
Really? You thought the 3 was interesting? Yeah. Why was the 3 interesting to you? Because I thought it was
one of the biggest things, and this is super subjective to me, and I talked with Jeff Gammett a little bit about this today on Apple Context Machine. The altimeter means that I no longer have to go find. So ridiculous. I know how to find my iPhone, put it in my pocket before I go two flights of stairs down to the kitchen. If I want to, you know, get credit for my stairs, for climbing back up.
Nice. So it's just going to track, you know, any heights you catch. Is that the what's the utility use case of it? Is it something like if you're
it's so for if you're doing stairs or if you're doing hiking, or you know any kind of you know, climbing or anything like that, where the fact that you're going up requires significantly more energy than going down or going level. You will no longer have to have your iPhone with you for your Apple Watch to be able to track that sort of stuff.
Okay, I mean, you know, more sensors is generally good. I just find it to be an incredibly incremental update. But yeah, I guess if that's the feature that does it for you, then that's the feature that does it for you. But
I was very excited by that feature. I was also impressed, John. I was impressed with. Okay, do you remember? Jeff Williams got a phone call from a woman who's out on her surfboard up on Lake Tahoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's all fine and dandy. Obviously, it was a little bit gimmicky. I was impressed that she had the honesty to admit that not falling off the surfboard in front of 1 million people was actually taking a lot of time and attention on her part. That was funny. But what was interesting is that they hang up from this phone call, and Jeff Williams points out, he says, look, I'm mic'd 3 ways to Sunday. He said something to the effect of, I mic'd it at precisely the optimal point to make for the best presentation possible. And that's me. But she, on the other hand, the only mic that was on her was the one that was on her Apple Watch. She sounded fantastic. And right now, if you go and make a phone call.
Do we know she wasn't using earpods?
He said specifically the only mic on her was her Apple Watch. He stated that.
Or did he say all she has was her Apple Watch?
He said that the only mic that she had on her was her Apple Watch.
Yeah, I'm suspicious. Something about that doesn't smell right, man, because let me tell you, there's no way that mic is that great. The mics on all their devices suck. And so there was something incredible about the setup, or maybe there was like the earpods, or I don't know what it is. Something about that sounds very.
It's possible there was chicanery involved. It is absolutely possible that, for instance, they had all these sound baffles in front of her that were like, you know, giving her absolute
focus.
It's possible that Apple was cheating, but I believe Jeff, I don't think Jeff's going to lie about whether or not her voice is coming through the microphone on her Apple Watch. And it's also possible that it was being cleaned up in some kind of through various filters in between her and the PA. That's also possible. But my real point, even if they were cheating in some way, currently on the Apple Watch Series 2, taking a phone call is somewhere in between, oh my God, I'm glad I had this because I can't get to my iPhone, and gimmick. You know, it's like you're doing it for like, hey, look, I can make a phone call. It's just like Dick Tracy. I mean, right? I mean, it's not a very pleasing experience. You agree with that, right?
I don't. I'm a weird use case because I keep my Apple Watch 100% on airplane mode all the time, so I don't use any of the features.
That's a fair point.
People do. Hello. Uh-oh. I don't know. This is cut out. Are you still there?
We're back.
Excellent. You're back. Excellent.
I'm sorry. So you ever made a phone call on your Apple Watch?
Yeah, just a couple of times. And I could see the use case that you said was interesting, where you were just chilling out and you get a call and it's someone they actually want to take the call for, and by the time you find your call, the phone is going to be gone, so you can answer that. I think that is very useful. But yeah, I get.
But it's not. It's still not. It's not a pleasing experience.
Yeah, if you had to talk like this, it wouldn't be bad. And to be fair, considering the nature of the device, the mic is very good for what is a tiny, shit device. So that I'm perfectly happy to give it kudos. I don't know. Something sounds very suspicious. I don't think the average human being's. I would love to be wrong, but I don't think the average human being's experience is going to be. I'm walking down the street, let's assume the street is empty and there's a cacophony of noise on it, and without lifting my hand to it, it's just going to pick me up terrific. I can't imagine that's the case, but I'd love to be wrong.
She did have her hands lifted. She was holding a paddle, and she was holding that paddle in a very specific way that put her watch fairly near her face, but it still sounded better than anything I've experienced with Apple Watch. And and I totally get your suspicions. If the device is as good as Jeff Williams was suggesting that it was, saying that it was, it will make phone calls on your wrist a lot useful.
Well, you know what use cases, assuming some of those circumstances are common, I could see one use case where it makes the phone better. If you're in your car driving and you've got your hands in front of the wheel, they're relatively close. And if you have a nice car like a Mercedes or something that keeps a lot of sound out, you could see that would actually be a decent use case, something like that. Don't have a lot of noise going on. It's not too far from your face. Maybe. Anyway,
we'll see.
Anyway, I thought that was a completely, and maybe this is a good tangent to go on. One, it was incremental. It's not even, if we were doing, the iPhone, the Apple Watch 3, instead of 3, I would call it the Apple Watch 2S. And I'm not even sure it's fully deserves credit for the S, but yeah, they added cellular, which
it was 3G to 3GS is what it was.
I think that, well, the 3GS actually was a big upgrade because the CPU and the RAM doubled. It was actually a very usability-wise thing, but I agree with the spirit of your sentiment, right? Like it wasn't much of a thing, but it may be transformative for the people that need the cellular or really like the cellular. This is funny. Apple released all these incredible stats on the battery life of the new phone, right? Like if you use it, if you're streaming music through the phone versus through straight cellular, it's this many hours versus that many hours. And I'm trying to get, because my use case is weird. I like to use it as a watch, and I just wanted to track my health because I think, they alluded to this a little bit, like, hey, we're working with these hospitals to early detect kind of bad heart issues, right? That we may be able to detect over time. And I think over time, the more you have of a baseline, the better you'll be able to make all kinds of interesting diagnoses. And otherwise, I just need it as a watch. I think almost for certain, within my lifetime, there's going to be a study that says constantly having RF on your body is going to likely increase your chances for cancer, probably at that spot, if not otherwise. So it's just a bad idea, in my opinion, and I'm probably weird. And I'm not probably weird. I am definitely weird, but I'm probably maybe I'm overly cautious on that. So I don't want wireless on me at all. I just need it for that. But
is that why your Apple Watch is always in airplane mode?
Yeah, it's always in airplane mode because it's RF literally on your skin 24 hours a day. It's a bad idea, I think. The way RF works, RF radiation it's not a question of health. Like people think this is a question of biology. This is a question of physics. The more exposure you have, the more chances of a radical like flipping a bit on your DNA and propagating. It's just, this is pure physics. So when I hear this, like, isn't there a chance of you getting cancer? This is baloney. When the Connecticut State Police troopers who would ticket everybody had their radar guns, they stopped using radar guns in Connecticut because every cop on the force got brain cancer and testicular cancer. Why? Because the freaking guns were just right next to their crotch and their head. And they made it illegal in Connecticut, so now Connecticut uses lasers for that. But it's all deals with proximity and how much radiation is blasting through you. And having something on you 24 hours a day that one had airport and Bluetooth radiation, which are relatively mild, and now cellular, are you freaking kidding me? This is like a guarantee cancer source within a number of years, is my opinion. But yeah, that's why I don't use it for that, because I do think that a bunch of the things are very useful features. I wish this is what they would do. They could totally solve this problem if they wanted to. Instead of me turning on airplane mode and off to kind of like sync things when I land at a new airport or something with a new time zone, I have to do that just to get the watch updated. What I wish it would do is maybe every time I look at it, to turn airplane mode off for 10 minutes or 5 minutes to sync up whatever it is, give me any notifications, and then otherwise turn it off so it's not doing any RF at all 99.9% of the time. That might be an interesting solution, but since I'm the only lunatic that cares about this, it's not going to happen. But for me, the interesting use case is right now, if you wear the Apple Watch, which is charging for me right now, if you use this in airplane mode, it gives you 3 full days without a charge. So if the battery improved, I'm interested in getting the cellular version, not for the cell things, because I'll never use it. It'll be on airplane mode. But I figured that it needs a better battery, you know, to keep up the same number of hours with the cell mode. So if this now goes double as long and I get a full week between charges, that's life-changing on this watch. Because once a week, you're always whatever, you know, put it on stand at some point or another. It's not a big deal. It's transformative. 3 days isn't bad. Every night, like you guys charge this every night, to me that would be a non-starter. I couldn't cope with it. So I might get one of these, but they had every stat.
I've got Canex's
an airplane one.
Got Canex's little portable charger / dock sitting on my nightstand, and I just pop it on my nightstand.
Yeah, taking.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. No, I get it. Like the need to charge it every night does seem it's onerous, for sure.
And it's transformative. By the way, my old BlackBerry, before I got the handspring Trio, was life-changing in that the battery on the old tank original BlackBerry would go for me for over a week. And only needing to charge that thing once a week, it's life-changing. And I'm hoping at some point cell phones get back to that point where I could go a full week between charges, because it just changes the nature of how you interact with this device, not having this constant.
You know what?
The equivalent of Tesla range anxiety. Battery anxiety.
We're not going to get that, John. What we'll get is wireless charging that is transmission-based instead of pad-based.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. Although magnetics is very different than RF, so that might be all right if it depends on the transmission form. Anyway, so
we saw a company at CES that's doing that, that's doing it, and that's actually doing wireless transmission charging. That could end up being the real deal, and could end up being in some real shipping products. And I think that going to change this. That's going to make all of this conversation be kind of like a LOL quaint kind of thing. Maybe. I'm curious about. I need to ask my buddy Arvin if kind of magnetic fields have the same issue and concern as our radio waves, because the radio, like I said, it's more of a math problem than it is a health problem. But
I digress. So I might get that because if I find out, did it actually double? The best stat I have is that the music play went from 6 hours of time of play to 10. So if I get kind of the same boost in off Wi-Fi, off wireless boost in range from 3 days, and it gets me to 5-6 days, oh, that's enough. That's like a game changer for me. So the odd thing is I will be getting the cellular version to not use any of the wireless.
You're such a weirdo, dude. You're just such a weirdo. Hey, listen, I have a question. Does this make it look like I've got a strap on my hat?
It kind of does, yeah.
Like I've got a, so like, at any moment, like if the wind
Boy,
goes,
with your cowboy hat.
it's like, I'm not going to lose it.
It does a little, yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that's the case.
What did you think of the show? Not what I think we could dive back into the products, but I'm almost positive we differ on this point. What did you think of the show as far as kind of a presentation event? How was it?
I thought. Well, I wrote a piece about, and I think this is really tangential to what you're asking me. I wrote a piece today for TMO, and Jeff and I talked about it a little bit on ACM. About how the Steve Jobs Theater is there's so much going into that went into that theater in terms of engineering, design, architecture, logistics. This thing was built from the ground up to be the ultimate Apple keynote event, as well as special events, concerts, parties, whatever the TV and video screenings and all, whatever kind of stuff they want to do there. There was so much going on at this particular media event that just that blew me away, and I completely geeked out on that aspect of it. But I think it's tangential to what you're asking.
Yeah, I am. I agree with you on that. That it looks like a really marvelous presentation stage. The only caveat I have on that is and you go into details like because of the projection technology that they don't need a green screen, so it's kind of awesome what they could accomplish on it. And I agree with all that. And I hate to say this, but man, if you watch the announcement of the Note 8, which is a shit show of major proportions. If Angela and Cook had a child that was even less competent than they are in presenting and acting like a normal human being that wasn't made out of plastic and drugged up on Ambien, if they had a child like that and that child were presenting, he would be the star of the Samsung presentation. It was atrocious on major, just unbelievably unbearable what pieces of shit they had presenting. And as bad as the pieces of shit that present for Apple are, after watching that show, I was like, oh my God, apparently it could be much worse. So despite the ponderous pieces of shit that presented on that show, the tech for the presentation of that show was amazing, because they didn't only have like the projection on two or three walls behind them. The entire stage floor was either like I don't know if they had LCD screens there or projection technology, but it was kind of magical, because all of a sudden the walls and the floor completely transform and are showing a video game, and this guy's floating over it. It was pretty spectacular. So the folks, there's a whole, I guess, cottage industry, hopefully it's not demeaning to them, of people that help for presentation, and their tech in some cases surpasses some of the best tech companies. With the video walls they're able to produce and the projection technologies and stuff, it's really kind of amazing what goes on. Seattle has a good number of those companies, as well as San Francisco, and their stuff is incredible. And so I've seen.
How about LA and New York?
What?
How about LA and New York?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that. I'm sure they all have stuff there. It's a little different in each town. It seems to me that a lot of, from what I know, a lot of the companies, startups, and in the tech sector in the Bay Area, they contract out with a lot of these companies to do prototype work, and they seem a good number of them are in the Bay Area, and a good number of them are in which one called Seattle. I'm sure there are awesome examples all over the place: New York, Boston, Austin, and a few other places as well. But the kind of the top tier guys that I'm familiar with are are in those areas. But yeah, I'm sure there's some top tier guys in other cities.
Did you watch? I think you're the one who pasted the link into the tech group. Did you watch the Jack Ma presentation?
Dude, you know, there's some people, you know, you're rightly going to.
This is the Alibaba CEO.
You know, we could show the video if I had the link. I
can find it. Do you want it?
Jack Ma.
I got it right here.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll put it on.
We'll send it to you through iMessage. Sent. Courtesy of you. That was such a ridiculous. Oh my god, this is when rich guys convince themselves that they're awesome. That's what this was. And there were so many people spending so much money and putting so much time and effort into making this idiot, actually he's not an idiot, he's super smart, this jackass think that he's awesome. And he's not awesome, and it sucked balls. It just infuriates me how fucking awful that was.
So I don't know if the audio. Oh, that's why there's no audio. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this going. If I can get this going, I need to show my desktop. Oh, we're rusty. We haven't done this in a long time, man.
I know, man. That's
right,
cool. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, so you know.
Prepare to cringe. Prepare to lock out.
You can skip ahead a little bit, I think.
Look, there's meteors coming, people. Meteors. This shit's getting real. This shit's getting real.
One of them includes Jack Ma.
On a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Bitches.
Watch his hands. He's revving up. He's revving that thing up, and it's not in sync with the sound.
That's all right. You could
that bugs me, man.
That's what bugs you about this. Not that he's
that's one of the things that bugs me, and it must be an electric motorcycle.
Away from having his own part of the Korean peninsula doesn't bug you. Oh yeah. Oh, this shit's getting cold, man.
No,
Look at that.
This is Jack Ma from Alibaba, not the Korean company. This isn't Samsung.
I know it's a joke, dude, but he's got some serious dough and some serious ego, apparently. Oh, feel the chills, man. Are you chilling?
Listen, I'll give him credit for the fact that he's not a fat man.
This is so awesome. What's awesome is that someone was like, yeah, Jack, this is totally hot. You should do this.
Yeah, this is totally great. Yeah, you don't look like an idiot at all.
Oh my God, this is awesome. The sheer train wreckness of this is just delightful. Oh yeah.
He thinks he's awesome.
Yeah.
He thinks he's awesome. And here all his employees are letting him know that yes, you are awesome.
Yes.
Listen, don't get me wrong. This guy could buy and sell me 1,000 times over and have money left over to pick up Ecuador on the side.
But what? It's that guy, the crazy biology dude that like upped all the prices and now is going to jail. I forget his name.
Scarelli, Jackass Pharmaceutical.
Pharma bro jailed, right? This dude, what's his name? Yeah,
Martin.
Pharmaceutical
in the same article.
Dude, when this guy talks, it's like watching an episode of Gotham and the Joker's talking. Like you're like, oh my God, this guy's a real life, real world villain. But he's not holding back. He's like, fuck you motherfuckers. I'm the fucking Joker and I'm all in. I'm just going over the top evil is where I'm going. And Jack Ma
is not evil.
Michael Jackson, he's just he's just like that. Like somewhere in his head, he's like, just like the Joker thinks that this is a perfectly reasonable way to have purple faces and have, blow people up and stuff and laugh about it. Just like this dude is like, I'm gonna quadruple or 10 times increase the price of life-saving drugs and then buy Wu Clan's one-person album for a couple of $1 million.
Wu-Tang,
yeah. So what? That's just the way I roll, baby. Just gotta love it.
He's selling that, by the way. Did you catch that? He's selling it.
Yeah, I saw. And he's bitter about it, which is hilarious too. It's like, I'm a lover of the arts, and if
Yeah,
you
hey,
love
listen,
the arts,
I was just trying to support the art, and now I get all this hate. Haters gonna hate, brother.
Well, the funny thing is, maybe there was some legitimacy in that. Like, given a band $2 million is a fair amount of supporting the arts for sure. But then, yeah, you now making money on this is in no way supporting the arts, right? That's just you recouping some.
That's only if he does make any money on it.
Well, yeah. Anyway, but nonetheless, I like these are real world people that are bigger than life, over the top, and like you can't believe this is for real. Like you cannot believe that there's some ego that's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and just try to top the greatest dancer of all time, Michael Jackson, because I'm
and he's terrible. He's not even vaguely good at it. All right, so here's the difference. Here's the difference between the Samsung thing and this Jack Ma presentation. Like, so when Samsung, I didn't watch the Samsung event. Was this a recent event that you were telling me about?
Yeah, it was the Note release, and again, it was
the Note release. Okay,
it was horrendous. The people were just awful, but the tech was fantastic.
When Samsung did do you remember that awful Broadway show that?
No,
I think it was for I want to say it was for the S5, maybe it was tone deaf, it was misogynist, it was the skits were ridiculous. My assumption, my honest assumption was that that event played to us like an American event might have played South Korea. Like everything was just off.
I could see when you kind of translate the mores of one culture into the other, things can go awry. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they're wanting to, and the problem is that the Samsung people are so arrogant that they insisted on micromanaging something that they should have trusted their Broadway team to do, which, by the way, was the story that ended up leaking out. The difference between that Samsung presentation and this is that Samsung just has no taste and no ability to put on an event that makes any sense. This Jack Ma thing is just ridiculous, and like it just offends me how many people were colluding to make us feel like he was awesome when he wasn't awesome, and he does all these other awesome things. He's worth untold billions of dollars. One of the richest men in the world. Like, it's okay for you not to be good at dancing. Don't pretend that you are, and then it offends me.
Maybe it was really subversive. Maybe it was all his people like, I'm tired of your shit. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, you're a good dancer. Yeah, you should go for it. Yeah, you're gonna kill it.
Yeah, you know that's not the case. It's a bunch of people making a rich guy feel like he's awesome.
You're probably right. Anyway, so somewhat getting back to what spawned this series of tangents and rat holes was our thoughts of the overall show. So I agree with you on the tech side, but yeah, I was getting more of how did each of the actors play their part? How was the keynote dude, Tim Cook? How were his supporting cast as far as putting on a show and being good purveyors of information and marketing? And so here, I'll give you my grades. Tim Cook, as always, okay. F-. Angela managed to be worse and more plastic than him, so F-, minus to the fucking minus power to the minus power. Useless. Not only was she useless in content, I'm like, oh, we got a store and we put in plants. F her. So she's totally useless, overpaid. And then Greg's a D-. Phil gets a D.
Greg? D.
Yeah, I think it's Greg. Who's the Apple Watch dude?
Jeff Williams.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Jeff gets a D-. Phil gets a D, and Craig Federici gets a C. By far the best player.
I give Craig probably more like a B or an A-. I think he's a really compelling presenter. Well, I'm a much
an A would be Steve Jobs at his best. So you're telling me you're giving an A- to Craig?
Steve Jobs would be an A+.
Okay, but still, you're saying he's in that ballpark?
That's a good point. No, probably B+ then.
All right. Fair enough.
No, I see. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm probably, I am legitimately probably being too generous, but I tend to be a nicer guy than you. So,
But that's okay. No, I don't mean to sway your grade. I was just saying that's my level.
No,
right?
yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, Craig is by far the best presenter. Actually, you know who was I know that you didn't. I don't think you care. No, I think you liked her, but you didn't care for her content. August.
Hate her.
She was a great presenter, man. She was a great presenter.
No.
She was a great presenter.
She literally mocked the type of people that made her job possible by basically calling the audience geeks and not cool enough to clap along or some other stuff. But she had sassy zingers, and that made her good. Now, she was a horrible presenter. She had a horrible presentation.
Whatever. Okay. All right. Fine. You don't like her. You're wrong. I'm cool with that. Craig is the best presenter that Apple has. I think that Tim has gotten better as time has gone by, but part of that, he's not a great presenter for sure. And notice that he gives the other executives a lot more stage time, and I don't think that's all because I don't think it's because he's a nice guy or even trying to elevate them. I think that he knows that he's not the best, but I think he's gotten better. And when he starts speaking passionately, I can see it.
Well, I totally can't. He's plastic man on Ambien, but I agree with you. He's gotten better because I think you're right, because he knows he sucks and he passes off much more quickly, which is the right thing to do. Unfortunately, who he passes off to are also like Jeff is, I don't think Jeff is incapable. Actually, I've heard interviews with Jeff and he's super articulate and technical. And I wish he was confident enough in himself not to do the rote memorized, I'm going through the cue cards or whatever the hell he's doing like a robot, because he's a totally competent speaker. Unlike Tim Cook, who can't communicate like a normal human being. Even in interviews, the guy's like freaking Mr. Roboto on Ambien. Jeff can communicate and well. I think he's just scared shitless, which, to be fair, that's a pretty heady stage to be on. So I can I totally understand that. But nonetheless, he comes out as a cue card reading robot every time. Angela, the only thing that's good is that he has Angela and Tim before him, which make him look like a rock star, relatively speaking. So he should feel good about himself on
that. A couple things, Rick Allen in the comments is wants Scott to come back and do presentations.
Scott's great.
Yeah, Scott's great as long as you want him in Mac Company.
Oh well, let's see. Let's talk about the performance of. What do you think about the iPhone 8?
The iPhone 8 was,
this is telling me loads already.
No, see, here's the thing. I was focusing on it to write it up, hardly paid attention, and I was really interested in the iPhone 10. And I still haven't had time to even go back and read what I wrote.
Because
it didn't grab my attention. To your point,
it's such a piece of shit. It's such a piece of shit that it's not even worthy of a 7S. That's how incremental a piece of shit that is. And here's the other thing that's really embarrassing. Think about the lineup. Think about Apple's fucking lineup. People need to be fired. I'm not even joking. People need to be fucking fired from Apple in a serious way. They sell an iPhone SE, which is the Apple iPhone 5 fucking design that is now going to be onto its 6th year, I think. And then we have the Apple iPhone 8, which is really an iPhone 6 with a glass back. So there hasn't been a refresh on that fucking design since the 6. So it's going on to its 4th motherfucking year on design. And then we have the 10, which is a legitimate new design, which is great. So what the fuck is Apple design doing? Not a goddamn thing. It's a fucking embarrassment.
Okay. I appreciate the spirit of what you're saying there on the design, but is the fact that Apple has developed a new aluminum manufacturing process to make this device stronger and made the back out of glass so that they could do wireless charging, does that not count in your mind at all towards new design?
Well, one, like, this was a batshit part of the presentation too. There's so don't get credit for being 3 years late to a fucking technology. The wireless charging, give me a fucking break. You're years late to it, not to mention they've already done a glass back once before on the iPhone 4. So like nothing here is like, wow, we've reinvented the fucking wheel. It's the same dick move they had. They had the gall to show the Apple TV 4K and it's got 4K. Let me tell you how great that resolution is. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Are we in 2014 that like you're giving us a description of this shit? You should be so fucking embarrassed that you should say, and we've upgraded this thing to 4K and not mention anything else, because you should be fucking ashamed of how fucking late you are.
Did you listen to TDO this week? TDO
Yes.
After the show yesterday? Did you hear Jeff Gamet introduce the year as 2015?
Yeah, he did. He did.
He accidentally introduced it, and he accidentally introduced the year as 2015. And so when he asked me my opinion on the Apple TV being 4K, I said, "Well, since it's 2015, I'm really impressed."
And it wouldn't have been even early into 2015. There was 4K was like when you had an excellent point, which was, look, when this piece of shit was released in 2014, 4K was out there. Like Roku came out with a 4K box, so it was it's such an embarrassment. So when you're talking about the iPhone, it's like, well, they put wireless charging on it, dude. The fucking train left on that years ago. I'm not. You don't get a cookie for doing some stuff that's really at this point fucking media.
Okay, because I actually may agree with you. The problem is there's some missing information for me. If Apple has changed it, Apple's never first to market with anything. Seldom first to market with anything. Sometimes they are, and oftentimes when it comes to these kinds of technologies like OLED, they eschew it for a reason. And when they finally do embrace it, it's because they fixed whatever it is that they found to be problematic. And my question to you, John, is: do you think that is possible here? Is it possible that something has been changed with the Qi system that finally got Apple to embrace it?
No.
Or is it just them being lazy?
It's just being fucking like criminally lazy. In this case, but what you say is true. Like, here's a great example where you do get to do that, right? Like face recognition and these dipshit fucking was it Qualcomm or whatever putting out these things like these 85 phones pushed together have some of the features that are new in this phone. Like, go fuck yourselves. Facial recognition, they're being proud of their facial recognition, even though it's years after phones that have had facial recognition and laptops and stuff that have had facial recognition is something to be proud of, because they've advanced the art in a significant way. For one thing, I haven't mentioned, other than me typing in the group that day, they have a thermal camera. Like, I wonder if it can do kind of like the infrared heat-seeking shit if someone gets an app writing just to that camera. But they have literally a thermal camera, the dot sensor. There's a lot going on that they have advanced the art on over what's like even in my Surface Book here that I got, which, by the way, facial recognition is awesome. On facial recognition, I think should be on every laptop and desktop, because it is such a natural and pleasant and order of magnitude better experience than Touch ID on a laptop, because you're just flipping this open, and just in the time that it flips open, boom, that's logged in. It's phenomenal. It's fast. Now, I'm sure the Microsoft version can be spoofed and isn't nearly as secure as the Apple version, and it has a lot of problems with it. But from a user experience standpoint, think about this too. One of the great things about Touch ID on my versus, here's the experience logging in into the MacBook, right? I have to open it and then touch it. So it's just more cumbersome than that. But here, check out the other thing. There's two different things that you use kind of Touch ID for, right? One is to prove who you are, because you want to get into your your 1Password passwords, right? So we want to make sure your keychain that it's you and you have authority to do that. You don't even have to do that if you have facial recognition on a laptop. It can just continuously say, yeah, it's still you, so I'm going to let you see it. I'm not even going to prompt you. And then other times it's just the prompt, do you really want to do this system update kind of thing, right? And make sure you have authorization for that. And you still might do a pop there, but you don't have to do anything if it's recognizing your face for just making sure that you have the authority to do this. You could continually do that when you're doing that. You could even set it like, I don't want to, like, when I click pay, I don't want to like even thumb in. I just, it's me. I haven't changed. I'm still here in front of the screen. So it's a superior, potential for a superior user experience on a desktop, on a laptop. On a phone, it remains to be seen if it is or not. But one thing, again, getting back to it, they've done a lot more than what's on this Surface Book in advancing the art. So they have a right, it goes to the spirit of what you were saying. Like sometimes there's more to it than that. There is not more to it than that on the 4K.
No, not on the 4K. That was a, John. Here, an interesting thing about this is that Apple has been getting its butt kicked in the set-top market, right? They've been losing share, which Apple doesn't theoretically care about share per se, but I suspect sales have actually been declining. And it's just like that joke that we've been making for a while, right? I found one weird trick to goose Mac sales by releasing new Macs. And finally we have a new Apple TV, and it's finally supporting 4K, and it also is going to be a much better gaming device for those who want to actually play games on it. And yeah, I'm squarely in your camp on this. This is some stuff. This device should have come out a year ago at least a year ago, if not before that.
And they don't get credit for the wireless charging. There isn't some like new quantum dot whatever charging they're doing. It's the same it's standard that Belkin's been using and Mophie's been using for forever. So they're just compliant with the standard. You don't get credit for that. You're late.
Yeah,
simple.
All right, fair enough. All right. So it's the same. It's essentially the same design.
Their design team is shit. They're lazy fucks that haven't done shit in years. Their first new device for the product that basically runs the entire company. They haven't done anything new in over 3 fucking years. It's just kind of
for the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10. iPhone
Well,
10
yeah,
new.
That's in over 3 years.
They do get credit for that.
Yes, but it's been over 3 years, dude. Over 3 years.
So, but they've done something now. But now they've done something.
But let's look at the management team. They went through. You guys are wrong on one thing. You finally come along to my side, dark side, where you're like, there was a dark year of 2015 and 16 on Macs, dude. There's a dark side on the Macs since like 2000, basically 13. So it's 14, 15, 16, and frankly going into 17. So it's 3-ish years they didn't do shit on the Macs. 3 years that they didn't do shit on new iPhone design. What the fuck is this company doing?
But okay, listen. You know that I'm in your camp. But now Apple is doing something. The WWDC announcement were significant. The iPhone 10 is significant, and we do have these new products now. The question is whether or not we're going to go another 3 years without these things. Like, if this is the start of getting their shit together, John, I don't have any complaints going forward.
I love you on a number of levels, and one of the things I love is, one, you're a far better human being than me, but granted, a very low bar. 2, you're a much more optimistic human being than me, and it's frankly charming to be around me, because if I had another version of me around, I would fucking kill me very quickly. So I love that part about you. But dude, they haven't done any of this shit in 3 years, and let me tell you what their current school is. So this is how fucking Stockholm battered housewife you are at this point. So yes, they've released some new products. Good. It's better than 0 new products. I agree. We vaulted that minimum bar. But Samsung is capable of releasing every year, not 1, but 3, 4, 10 different phones that look.
Okay, all right.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Considering what huge part of fashion component there is in phones, that Apple isn't capable of iterating phones more frequently than once every 3 years is kind of bad.
Samsung is nothing more than an OEM. It isn't doing shit. Fuck that company. I know you're not a Samsung fan, but you cannot compare what Samsung does to what Apple is doing.
dude, if this piece of shit company can manage to do a few new designs, and you know what else, by the way, this bugs me.
If any of those designs, it was even close to being as good as an iPhone, I would
where they're
see
better?
the point.
You know where they're better? I'll tell you where they're better today. Better than the iPhone
Okay.
10 by a long time.
Yep.
They have genuine edge-to-edge screens. And everyone's saying, oh, Apple has a phone without a bezel. The fucking bezel on the iPhone 10 is mammoth. True, it doesn't any longer have the Jay Leno forehead and chin, but you are, again, such battered freaking people that you're like, oh, but this thick motherfucking bezel 100% around the entire thing is still a bezel. No, at least the edge on the Samsung phones really does go to the edge. It doesn't go to top and bottom, but on the sides it does. And that is an advancement. And I give them credit for that. Just like there's some advancements on some of the Microsoft hardware. The software is a shit show of.
Can you imagine what a shit show a buttonless Samsung device would be?
This is such good hardware on a couple of counts. Like the way the screen detaches, there's really some smart stuff on here. And then the software, you're just like, you got to be motherfucking kidding me. But you still click the control panel, and it's the fucking interface from 1995. It's just. It's fucking unbelievable. Anyway, but
all right. So listen. I am with you on Apple's paucity of new designs over distressingly long period of time. 2017 though. Yes, I am with you on this, but it kind of like 2017 is setting a new bar going forward, and it's hard. I can't complain about what's happening now because I'm hoping it's the start of the right thing.
So let me give you another interesting tidbit to disprove that things are getting better.
Dude, a technology store came inside your house and vomited.
So by the way, I got all these 3 iPads. This is the 12.9. This is the 10.5. This is the mini, the 7.9. Somewhere around here, I have a 9.7. My favorite form factor after having all these by far is the 7.9. By far, even though this has a piece of shit A7 processor in it, the latest version of this has an A8, and I might have to buy it because I think they're going to kill this.
I find it inexplicable that Apple seems to be killing that form factor too.
And Apple doesn't. So listen, Apple can't get the most remedial motherfucking marketing shit straight in the world, which is you go into McDonald's and you can get a small, medium, or a large Coke, right? It's like the most common motherfucking thing on the earth. This is what Apple does. You go into whatever store and you want to get a soda. If you get a small one, well, I'm sorry, sir, you have to get a caffeine-free diet Pepsi if you want the small size. If you want the medium size, well, we'll let you have a Diet Coke for that. And if you want the large one, then you can get the Mexican Coke with the full cane sugar. It's like, no, motherfucker, I want the full cane sugar. I just don't want a large one right now. I'd like a small one, please. No, you can't do that. Oh, you know what? I use the split keyboard to type on this fucking thing all the time because that's the way your hands are. And I have decently, that's the way it works because it's far. On a fucking thing that's 3 times bigger where it totally makes sense to have a split keyboard, like, no, fuck you, we're not giving you a split keyboard. We actually wrote extra code to make sure your experience was extra fucking miserable on this. And today on iTunes, because Apple fucking hates all your data, they're like, you know what? They didn't ask me. My fucking iTunes updated automatically, and it killed my ability to manage apps that are no longer on the App Store, like MAME emulators and shit like that. Because fuck you. We decided you don't need your information. Fuck you. We're just going to shit on and fucking delete your shit all the time. So my point is, and this device can only charge maximum rate on a 29 watt adapter. The other's on a 12 watt adapter, but not on the 87 watt adapter. But the new iPhone can't charge. So it's all over the fucking place on getting any kind of reasonable production. These are recent productions on stuff, and yet so they updated this bezel, but not this one because fuck you, fuck you. We decided this is a good big bezel to have. That's the way we roll.
All right. Listen.
This is this year.
I empathize with everything you just said, and I want those things to be different as well. I don't know. Maybe this is more battered housewife thing, because it's just so much better than 2015 and 2016. It's so much better than 2016 in the first half of 2016.
Thank you for at least admitting it. But no, seriously, look, these are the core products that are paying all the bills, right? And they can't fucking update that. Something's fucking wrong. I mean, seriously, something fucking happened inside that company. I think that's going to come out someday. That was and it wasn't just the death of Steve Jobs. Something fucked up seriously there. Like, they were all high or something for 3 fucking years.
You know what I think it is, John? I think it may be Apple Park. I think they've been super. Actually, it's a couple of things, John. I think it's a focus on Apple Park, especially with Johnny Ive, and also this. I think that there's been a lot of time and behind the scenes time devoted to the moonshot products that haven't yet seen the light of day.
So even if, let's say, you're 100%
this is not an
correct.
Excuse. This is a proposed reason, not an excuse.
Right. So there's no excuse for it. So maybe that's the case, but let me put it this way. One, it's a problem. I think Johnny Ive, he looks so much better. I've seen him recently because he gained all that weight when he took. I think he's on sabbatical, frankly, and whether he's working on the whatever, he was not looking in good shape for Johnny Ive. And when I seen him recently, he looks much better. So this guy deserved whatever vacation or whatever the fuck he wanted to do. He deserved it. He was a hard worker for forever. People burn out. I don't know if he burned out, but he certainly deserved it. That does not excuse when one person goes away that the rest of the people produced fucking nothing for 3 years. I don't care if he was working on this. I don't care if they were also working on that. This is their most important product that didn't get an update for over 3 years. That's fucked up. And so there's something fundamentally fucked up in that they're not fixing this infrastructure. Like, there's so many things. And in a weird way, as much as I mock it, I'm kind of happy for whoever, Jeff, the guy that runs the Apple Watch thing. That guy deserves a lot of credit because he's the only one that's iterating that product regularly. Every year that gets an update.
iPhone got an update too. What hasn't gotten an update is the form factor, and the Apple Watch has only gotten very minor tweaks to the form factor.
That's true. The iPhone's been getting updates, but not design-wise. And I guess the Apple Watch also hasn't gotten a design update. So yeah, maybe I'm being overly jealous. I guess
I got a question for you on that.
The Silicon Group, they're incredible.
Got a question for. By the way, I wanted to let you know that I really think some of the maps that they showed yesterday, I thought they were really interesting. Good looking.
Fuck you, fucking stress, motherfucker.
Secondly,
you know how bad that performance was? It took 51 minutes to fucking give me one new motherfucking feature that they announced. It was an embarrassingly bad show production-wise, in my opinion. Horrendous.
What do you mean? What do you mean? There were new features during the Apple Watch production. That was not 50 minutes. That was like 20 minutes into it.
It was 25 minutes before they mentioned cellular. I think you're right. So I'm sorry, I was being overly harsh. It only took them 25 fucking minutes to announce one new feature. They had to show me a video of how important fucking cellular is. Like, you could stream. Brian, do you understand? You could fucking stream digital information into the fucking phone when you have cellular. Get the fuck out of town.
Do you understand how important Apple Park is to those people? A reason why it took 25 minutes is because a lot of it was dedicated to Apple Park, and I understand them taking that moment to offer their tribute to Steve Jobs.
Yeah, well, by the way, another bullshit hypocrisy. We won't follow what Steve does, like, ship products. We decide for that part of not following what Steve Jobs would do, the fucking real artist ship part, we'll just ignore that part. But then we will fucking masturbate endlessly about every other thing that Steve said in our fucking soliloquy to Steve Jobs, who would have been appalled by that fucking presentation, by the way, on every level, not to mention the bullshit nostalgia that they were. Steve said this and Steve this. We're not following what Steve said, but he said this and that and everything. He said ship fucking products, you fucking pieces of shit. That part they managed to fucking ignore. Unbelievable. Embarrassing show, in my opinion. It was a very meh show with regard to the releases. The fucking Apple TV, thank goodness it needed to be out there. The Apple Watch, nice iteration for what it is. It's fine. The iPhone 8, an embarrassment. And I'm afraid that the stock market's going to fucking anally rape Apple on this, because I don't understand why Apple did this part. I'm curious as to your thoughts. Why the fuck did they bifurcate the pre-orders for the iPhone 10 and 8? Because what's going to happen is the iPhone 8 pre-orders are on the 15th or whatever. And as I think a relatively small number of people are going to pre-order the iPhone 8 because everyone wants the 10. And when the pre-order rumors of being low for the iPhone 8 come out, the press, is going to jizz itself with clickbait stuff left and right of, oh, they're lower than ever, ignoring the fact that there's going to be an iPhone 10, a few days later, because they need to feed their click whore fucking ad revenue, and the stock's going to tank for a good while, and it's not going to recover for a decent while because the pre-orders of the 10, there's probably going to be delays in getting it out, production questions and stuff like that. So it won't be clear that the overall revenue is still probably going to be way higher, because the margin on the motherfucking 10 is phenomenal. I mean, the price increase is basically close to $500. If you get a fully loaded iPhone 10 in New York, you get the Apple Care, which is now $200 on it. You get the top end model, which is $1,150. So that's $1,350. By the time you add the tax in New York City, is at 8.0. You're $1,500 for that phone. Top of the line iPhone 8 Plus is about 11 and change in New York. And I think the top of the line iPhone 7 Plus used to be right around 1,000. So from the 7, that's a 50% increase in cost. And a lot of that is going to be on the margin side for Apple, which is going to be great for their numbers when it's all said and done. But in the meantime, I think they're going to get reamed on this bifurcated pre-order thing. And I don't know why, just let people pre-order early. What difference does it make if I pre-order in October versus now? So do you have any theories why they did that?
Yeah, I do. For one thing, I think the 8's going to be substantially more popular than you think it will be. Apple has shown repeatedly that people buy the entry level, and I think a lot of people will not dream of spending the money that a 10 is going to cost. So I think that, and the 8, I mean, the vast majority, the echo chamber cares about this stuff, John, but I don't think that the vast majority of normal folks care.
I see what you're saying, and I think there's some reason to it, but there's a very good large number of people that are on the Apple plan that, per year they just get a new update, and the price doesn't change when you get the 10. You just get it.
I don't think that's a lot of people, though. I don't think it's a significant percentage.
Right. So this is an interesting thing. I think I can't even imagine why I'd want the iPhone 8 Plus. It's a useless model.
Yeah, you don't. No, for sure.
Hold on. Hear me out, because a lot of people didn't want it because it's so much bigger, right? And you get a bigger screen now with a smaller phone in the 10 than you do with the Plus. So if you're in the market for a Plus, I think this is a no-brainer. You're getting the 10. And now the size difference between the 10 and the regular 8 is so small. It's almost like, why would you do this? Unless you have an evil twin, which, maybe some people have twin brothers and sisters that are a pain in the ass and you're worried about the Face ID. It just seems like a no-brainer that you want the 10, but you're right. The cost is huge. It is a substantial, especially from the very, very entry level. It is a big difference in price. So you may be right, but I don't know. The iPhone 8 is just such a rehash of the fucking 6 that I can't imagine.
There's no doubt that if Apple could have produced the 10 in quantities large enough to actually introduce, that they would have introduced it earlier than they did, but even at the same time. I think that faced with what they had, which was a delay on the 10, they had no choice but to do the bifurcated launch date. They had no choice. They've got to release a new device this this quarter, and they've got to they've got to do the 10 when they can.
Maybe. So this brings the capacity thing here, and I don't understand fucking Apple sometimes. I'm curious what your thoughts on this are. They're, again, dependent completely on a single source provider from one of their biggest competitors. All their OLED come from Samsung. And my thinking on a couple levels was like, what the fuck is wrong with this fucking company constantly making the mistake of being reliant on its major competitor for major product? And I also think about, like, there is something fucked up. As much as Apple pretends to be this virtuous player that is, you know, subject to the whims of international competition and why it has to produce iPhones in China, for some reason Foxconn oddly thinks it's confident that it can build a factory to produce iPhones in America, and yet Apple itself won't do that. And to me, that's bizarre. Why would you not want to control the whole widget, something that's been in its ethos forever, build your own factory, and buy a company that makes OLED screens? Why are you dependent upon your most major competitor? You're basically enabling them to compete against you more. It's bizarre. And they're limited by that. Buy LG, for fuck's sake. Buy them out, make your fucking OLED ad nauseum. You have infinity dollars. You can do this shit. And they're constantly pawning this off on someone, and it's just a bizarre thing to me. It seems counter to the ethos that Jobs had, which was like, I want to own the whole thing if I can.
I suspect that there's a reason for it. I understand what you're saying. I respect what you're saying. I too have wondered many of the same things, but there's like one of the things. It seems to me that Apple would own a factory in the U.S. if it could be staffed entirely by robots.
Well, even doing that, like, they should be doing that. They should be thinking of ways
you can't yet. We're not there yet.
China have robots here.
We're not there yet.
Okay. But here's the fucked up thing. Foxconn's like, yeah, I can fucking make this work in America.
But Foxconn can use that factory space for other companies when it's not doing stuff for Apple. And that's different. Yeah. If Apple's going to operate a factory,
but it shows you that Apple's full of shit. That when they argued, oh, you can't do this in America, but Foxconn says they can.
No. Yeah, because Foxconn can take that capacity and put it to use for other companies that are going to pay for it. So the question is whether or not, I mean, like, you know, the big problem, for any company making consumer or making anything in huge quantities, especially something as seasonal as these electronic devices, these smartphones and things like that, is that the workforce has to go, you know, go like this and then go like this, go like this, go like this, go like this, go like this. And the United States, you can't have a trained workforce and manage it that way.
That's not true. Trump himself uses seasonal workers, as we've seen in his mansion, right? In his hotels, he hires seasonal workers all the time.
We're talking orders of magnitude different, though. Like what city right now could Foxconn open up a factory in the United States where it can go from needing 400,000 workers one day to 100,000 workers the day after, or you know, for 6 weeks at a time or whatever?
Well, they're doing it in Wisconsin, so it's going to be probably within, you know, some kind of Chicago-ish reach. And so I think you have partly a good point and partly a disingenuous point. So your point of seasonality is good. I don't think it's good in that, like, you make it sound like it's almost forbidden by like some regulations or anything. It's logistically difficult to read.
Yeah. It's because American workers expect to be paid, to have benefits, to not be out of work in 6 weeks and things like that.
That's definitely not true, because look at all the Amazon slaves that don't get any of that stuff, and they work for Amazon knowing exactly what shithole they're in, right? So
far few people, though, doing 100 at a time, 200 at a time, 2,000 at a time. That's doable.
There's lots of people that do it, so at a different scale, granted. And this is where partly the disingenuous part is. So I agree, you know, there's wild variations, and the seasonality is very difficult, no doubt about it. There's two things one Apple can do to change that, but two things to ameliorate that. So the scale is all phones in the world, Samsung and whatnot, but that they do that. But if you look, Samsung's releases are awfully close in time to Apple's releases. So it's not like they're staggering that at Foxconn. They're just hiring more people. But it gets to your point that China's more amenable to logistics. I'm sorry?
Samsung sells fewer units of their flagship devices than Apple does. A lot fewer.
True, but if anything, the different providers seem to be adding to the huge spike in seasonality rather than being an evening out feature for Foxconn. It's not like, oh, 4 months later after the bulge, that's when we're going to produce the Samsungs. They're producing them roughly.
We do know that for these ramp ups that Foxconn has to bring in hundreds of thousands of people though for Apple, and then those people go back to their villages when they're done.
So I think your seasonality argument has merit, but here's where I think it's different. One, you don't have the added delta that Foxconn has to deal with because they're only going to be doing their own phones. Apple would only be doing their own phones here. So you have a less accentuated seasonality because it's just for their own things. And secondly, because it's not producing for the entire industry, the delta is smaller. So Apple could probably smooth that curve out, meaning they can ride with having, a little bit extra fat on the production side during the leaner months to have enough for the higher months. And they could do more like what they're doing with the iPhone SE. Well, not ignoring it completely, which is what they're actually fucking doing with it. But if they introduced some of these phones off cycle, meaning, the main phones nowish, but like the smaller phones and medium phones kind of mid-cycle, that helps load balance it. Anyway, I think if any company could do that, so I think those ameliorate some of your cycle things. But I think if you're being honest with yourself, forget the cycles are important, but I think before they always made it sound like you just don't have enough engineers or enough qualified people to make this happen. And I don't think that's the case because, again, Foxconn seems to be pretty confident they can do this, at least some of it. And you know what? It's fine if the factory that Apple would build in the U.S. can't do 100% of it. At least they wouldn't be 100% dependent on Pegatron and Foxconn. What's so bad about having some extra capacity, that operates at whatever rate it can operate here? So it just seems disingenuous. All the bullshit arguments they made, it's one of those Steve Jobs.
I suspect, John,
you don't want a screen this big, but actually, yeah, you do.
I suspect that this is an issue of missing information. This is one of those things where it seems irrational and doesn't seem to have rhyme or reason. Turns out that there's actually a reason for it. If reason the Apple actions wouldn't appear rational. Otherwise, you're right. Otherwise, you're right, and it's just weird and crazy.
It smells bad, man. It smells bad. I don't think this is.
What possible? Why would Apple? Is it more likely that Apple has a real reason for not doing it, or is it more likely that Apple is shooting itself in the foot and not owning the whole legend when it could?
I think Apple has been lost for at least 3 years, dude, and in some significantly fucked up ways, and this is just part of that thing. There's shit that Steve Jobs none of this would have happened. I mean, you think Disney would have had the balls to tell Steve Jobs, "I'm not going to give you 4K video," beyond his own, even with the argument he owned fucking zero of that stock. He came in and put his dick on and told them all, "You can suck it if you don't like this," and they all sucked it and said thank you. So it just wouldn't have happened. Just wouldn't have happened. It'd just be different.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it would be. It would absolutely be different. There's no doubt about that.
So I don't have an explanation for it other than something smells bad on a whole number of levels of Apple. And I pray you're right, but I don't see what really needs to be done at the company, which is to fix management shit. To give some context that I'm not totally nuts when I have this conspiracy theory. For the longest time, Walt, a buddy, and I, who are big Honda fans, don't ask me why, whatever.
Walt's been on the show.
Yeah. Well, Walt's again another fine a human being that's far better than I am, but again a low bar. But he's actually a very fine human being. We're Honda fans forever, and Honda had this golden era in the '90s. They produced the Acura NSX. They produced the little Honda, what do they call it, the Acura Integra here. They had the CRX. They had the Prelude. They had the S2000, which had the highest naturally aspirated per liter horsepower output until the Ferrari 458 came out. Incredible cars. The early ones had all double wishbone suspension, which only like the highest end cars still have down. They got rid of it all. They lost all their mojo. They lost all this shit, and they just produced shit for a while. The cars were still super reliable, but they didn't have any of that sporty vibe, that incredible kind of sleeper, punching above its weight kind of design that they're for. And they finally just a couple of weeks ago came out and said, yeah, we really messed up. We lost our mojo by not continuing on with what we were doing, and we messed up because whatever their reasons were A, B, and C. But and you look back, and the guys that were saying this is fucked up. You are getting rid of some of the best models ever, and making your Civic shittier, and putting multi-link. It was inexplicable. And the answer ended up being just that simple. It's that these assholes lost their mojo. They fucked up inexplicably, and no one had the balls to say it. And people that were saying otherwise were told, you're an idiot, you're a conspiracy theory, or whatever. But it turned out was right. The company lost its way in a significant way. And think about, for a Japanese company to admit that is kind of insane. Like, the loss of face involved with that is insane culturally there. So it's saying something. So sometimes it's just that simple. The company is fucking up and the management is fucked up. And what will make me feel a lot better about the company is what we've been, well, I think what we've been bitching about, definitely what I've been bitching about, is I need to see that they need to address this on a managerial front, that they're doing something about this. It'll be all well and good to finally get a new fucking iMac Pro and a Mac Pro, but it doesn't tell me that they've solved the underlying problems. Time, I guess, will tell, but they haven't telegraphed any admission to this. And they should. Well, you know what? I'm lying. They did with the Mac Pro, but only that. They're like, oh, this is the only place we fucked up. 3 years of the same fucking iPhone design is not a fuck up. 4 years of one of the iPhone designs is not a fuck up. Are you fucking kidding me? For a company known for design, it is. It's just beyond fucking embarrassing. I mean, it's like suicide levels of fucking embarrassment that should be going on there over it. But that's just my theory.
Fair enough. On that very, very happy note, John, I actually have some errands I gotta go do. So we ought to.
All right. Well, good seeing you. And
hey, man, great to see you.
And probably won't see you for a couple of weeks, but we'll hopefully be back ranting and raving. And apparently on Wednesdays, we will be trying to.
It's apparently on Wednesdays. That's our new day. And thanks to the folks who joined us in the chat room. Much appreciated.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. And on that popular topic, we'll see you next time.